Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Pen. I am your host, Coach Keisha, and tonight we're diving into a conversation about healing, food, and reclaiming the body's natural intelligence. Sounds intriguing, right? We're going to dig into it. But before that, if you're joining us on YouTube or Facebook, we're super grateful that you're here. If you're watching live, please do me a favor, like, share, and tag someone who needs this conversation. If you're watching the replay, you're welcome to do that as well, because sharing is caring, right? So please share the broadcast, share the replay, and start a conversation about what we're going to talk about tonight. Because tonight's episode explores what happens when modern life disrupts our health and how really returning to living food and simple practices can help rebuild us from the inside out. So I'm super excited. Again, before we begin, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow Behind the Pen so you never miss an episode. This is season 2, guys. This is episode 3 of season 2. You can go back and watch all of the wonderful authors that were on season 1, but we are kicking off episode 3 of season 2 tonight. And again, I'm super excited. Um, Tonight's guest is the author of The Guts of Fermentation. Michelle is a food first health educator who, let's say, she rebuilt her own health after years of digestive challenges, fatigue, inflammation. I know some of this is probably sounding familiar to you guys. Her work kind of blends her personal story, fermentation science, and practical tools to help people restore gut health and trust in their bodies through the real food, and sustainable practices. So her book is coming up for release on March 20th. So we've got about 30 days before her release. So we're just drumming up a little buzz now. It's a powerful blend of her memoir, science, and food wisdom that challenges modern approaches to health and invites readers back to nourishment and resilience. So, without further ado, please help me welcome Michelle to Behind the Pen.
Hi,
Good
Keisha.
evening.
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm excited. I've been excited all day for this conversation. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on to the podcast.
Absolutely. I
So
think I'm going to learn a lot today, too. 20 books you've published. That's amazing.
yes, yes, I'm always excited, and everyone is like my baby. So I'm sure that you'll have the same experience. I'm like holding a baby for the first time. So I'm excited for you to have that experience as well. We're going to jump right in. We're not going to belabor the point anymore. So tell us a little bit about your journey and what kind of led you to write The Guts of Fermentation.
Oh, it's a beautiful question. Um, as a little girl, I know I'm 59. So when I go that far back, get ready to sit back and relax. um, as a little girl, I grew up on a farm in Oklahoma, and we lived what we grew and what we raised. We would have chicken once a week, and I'm one of 5 siblings, and it was one chicken a week. And those chickens didn't have any hormones, any antibiotics, nothing in them. They were just straight, clean chickens, skinny little chickens. And yes, we were not adults, so a chicken can go quite a ways. But we also raised rabbits, and we only ate what we grew, and we shared with our neighbors. That's the kind of food sovereignty to start off with that kids in today's world do not see or experience. And my mom got a divorce, and we moved from the country into the city, and we lost all of that. We didn't have chickens or rabbits or gardens. We were eating food that was already starting to processed. This is back when, we had the big, massive tube TVs, and people started talking about, you know, using a remote control and eating TV dinners in front of the TV. And our life started to become sedentary. And if you fast forward to when I was an adult, I moved to San Francisco sight unseen. And I was there right at this food movement that was organic food. And I'm like, organic food, what does that mean? With it, and we didn't have that term. We had farm to table, but that wasn't the term we used. That's just our way of life. So it was interesting to see that. And an influential author was Michael Pollan. Michael Pollan wrote, one of his books was called The Omnivore's Dilemma. And it was just very significant into my way of life. He was putting words to the ways I grew up, the things I had that I didn't have any longer and that I missed. And in one of his quotes, he said, "We have a choice every day, and we're telling corporate America what we want by eating. So our forks show corporate America what we want 3 times a day." So at the time, this is like 30 years ago, I didn't really understand that. I knew, yeah, we are telling corporate America, but are they really listening to us? And now when you look at where food, how much food has changed, how much we have outsourced our food systems, we've outsourced our health to other people. We're not out in the fields pulling getting rid of the potato bugs and pulling the onions out of the ground. We go to the grocery store and buy it. We think convenience. This is great. It's convenient, but nobody thought to talk about what that was doing to our health. And then when you look at corporate America was just solving the need that we told them we had by eating the fast food, by eating the processed food. And so they complied. That's what they gave us. So you look at the next 30 years and where we are, and you walk the aisles, it's all processed and ultra processed foods. We've got a small aisle of vegetables. I always ask people, I always say, when's the last time you talked to a farmer? Right? And never do I come across, oh, yesterday. It's always, gosh, it's been years. I had a CSA box, which is community supported agriculture. That's where you buy a membership from a farm and they provide vegetables to you on like a weekly basis or biweekly. CSA is the acronym. And it's interesting because that's kind of not as popular as it used to be as well. And so I too would take the convenience route. I have a beautiful garden. I grow a lot of stuff, but I just run to the store and grab something, and we were spoiled, right? We want a tomato in the wintertime. We go to the grocery store. We're not eating seasonal. So what does that mean? How did that tomato grow to be able to provide it for you right now? So these questions started coming up, and at the same time, I was going through the change, and wow, I started hemorrhaging when my monthly cycle would show itself. Of the last 5 years, even I was heavy bleeding for 10 years, but then the last 5 years, it was hemorrhaging. And I'd have to go to the hospital. I'd have to get a blood transfusion. I'd have to get DNCs, and I'd have to get ablations. And the doctors kept telling me, just get a hysterectomy. Just get a hysterectomy. And I was like, that just feels so wrong. I'm not ready for something like that. And during the time I'm trying to survive this, which meant then living through this cycle of uh, I only would go and do things in the safe time of the month, so I wouldn't have like I wouldn't be bleeding, because when that happened, it wasn't just a little bit. The floodgates would open up, and there was such a stigma around it too. You didn't talk about it. It was all secret. And so I lived in this world of embarrassment and uh, just terrified that people were going to see what was going on. That is very lonely. And I, I was like, there's got to be something that's happening. And then during this time, this 5-year mark of the blood transfusions, ablations, and DNCs, I would have a good week and I would go backpacking with my son to the mountains. And I stepped on a pebble. I tore my root meniscus on my knee. All I did was step on a stupid pebble. And I couldn't walk. I had to be carried down the mountain. Then I have a tooth extraction and I end up with preceptus. I mean, it was freaking scary stuff. All I could tie it to was the fact that I was anemic for so long that I had depleted all my nutrients and my body was weakened. And everything the doctors would do, do a surgery or take these pills. Here's antibiotics. Here's probiotics. Here's, every time I turned, it was more pills. And I was like, I can't do this. So I went back to basics. Cold turkey at all. Said, I'm not doing this. And I don't recommend that to anybody else. That was a decision. That was a risky decision I made. And it happened to be a good decision for me. And when I say go back to basics, I started eating my fermented foods. I started listening to my body instead of outsourcing my health. I started looking internally. I started looking at my ancestral knowledge. I started pulling from that, going, there has to be a better way, because with bad health came depression. Oh, in that 5-year period, I had a car accident that I ended up in the hospital with. I mean, I could not get ahead of the game. Couldn't. So as I started researching how to make myself better, I was keeping a log so that I would know what I was eating, what I was drinking, when I was sleeping, when I was having problems, and my bowel movements. And then I would go research one of those as to what's going on. And that turned into a gutsy reset program, because I went from this depressed person where I was sadly in a very, very dark place, saying I can't continue, to I'm back to my old self now. And I was like, okay, why? After that car accident, they diagnosed me with depression, and I need to get a handle. Here's some pills, take these pills. And I'm like, I'm not taking any more pills. And so I started eating this fermented food, and I kept asking myself, why didn't my practitioners, my healthcare practitioners who I trusted, why didn't they tell me to do this? Because I tell you what, you eat a fermented jar of food, within an hour, it turns into happiness. There is a dopamine that gets released in your gut that makes you happy just by eating fermented foods. I was like, why isn't this shared? So from the logs on everything I was doing, then ended up, because I was working on a fermented book, but it was all recipes. And there was a lot of experiences I did in the catering world where I would take people off grid and teach them different stuff like foraging mushrooms and how to ferment foods and how to extract water from the stream And anyway, because we were off grid, we ate the fermented foods I brought in. And people's whole demeanor changed. They would show up stressed and just overly stimulated. And by the fourth day, they were even keel and happy and hanging out in my kitchen and wanting to know what everything was. And it was an amazing experience. So, based on that, and then what I was experiencing for my own health, is what brought about the book. Whew, that was a long, drawn out thing there.
It was so good. It was so good. There were so many like key things that you hit on, and my journey is almost similar to yours, like almost verbatim.
You just gave
Because
me chills.
we talked a little bit before, but what caused me to start my journey, which is very similar, into getting back to the basics and eating more of what we're supposed naturally plant based, that type of thing, was endometriosis and heavy
Oh, yes,
cycles
I had that too.
and
Yes.
blood transfusions and DNCs and the shame that you feel when you're
Oh,
heavy, when your cycle is heavy, and
yes.
all of that stuff. And so I was in my 30s, single, no children, and they're recommending me hysterectomy. And I was like, I want to have children. You know what I mean? And so I
Wow.
said, give me 3 months to do it my way, and if it doesn't work, then I'll come back and we'll try it your way. And so my doctor, I had been going to him since I was 18, so he was like, okay, I'll give you a couple months. And so I went plant-based and I started implementing fasting, and that worked for me. I don't try to put anything on anybody, but that worked for me. And so, like you, I started doing all of this research, and you find out how and when the food pyramid was created, who backs it, like all the different things that we do that we don't really question. And it's so funny
We
because I saw
outsource it.
someone, yeah, we don't question it, but I saw someone on social media and he said, someone asked me why I don't drink alcohol. And he was like, because you're putting poison in your body. That was his stance on it. But he was like, but nobody ever asked me why I don't drink water. If I refused a cup of water, they wouldn't say, well, why you don't want to drink some water? So it's all of these things. It's like we've been brainwashed into believing that fast food is good, but believing all these processed things are good. So you
Cheap.
really get so
Yes.
many good points in your journey, and a lot of things that we just don't realize. I mean, I'm an 80s baby. I was born in the 80s, and so I've seen the transition from one to another, in technology, but not only that, in how we eat and how we went from playing outside to not ever going outside. The kids of today, they don't go outside, they don't ride bikes, they don't run around, you know what I mean? And so
Oh,
they eat junk food and play video games. So books like yours are needed so that we can educate ourselves and the next generation on what to eat and what not to eat, and how to live happy, healthy lives where you feel happy, you look happy because you're healthy. And so,
yes.
um,
And you're healthy because your gut microbes are happy.
yes,
And this isn't new. Um, back in the 1800s, Louis Pasteur coined the term germ theory. And yes, that saved a bunch of lives. Doctors sterilized their hands before they would do any surgeries. We washed our hands before we went to the bathroom. That was all critical. That was absolutely important. But what we do is we always go to the extreme. So it's not just sterilization, cleaning up after ourselves. We've got to sterilize the food. We've got to put herbicides on the food. We basically pasteurization. Oh, food can't be good unless you pasteurize it. And so we were told this all of our lives. And then there was another guy at the same time, Antonio Bentcamp, and he was saying, no, man, it's not germ theory. It's not germs we have to be as scared of, because this bacteria, these germs, they're everywhere. They're in your mouth, they're on your skin, they're on counters. We need to look at the health of the terrain, which is our gut, and we need to make sure it's healthy, and we need to give it what it needs so that it can get rid of all the bad stuff. And he was dismissed. His theory was absolutely dismissed. But interesting as it may be, when Pasteur was on his deathbed, he basically admitted that looking at what Camp was saying, he wasn't wrong, and we need to address that. And researchers are actually diving into that and learning more about our microbes. Now, to our credit, to human credit, we didn't have the technology to look at microbial life until we couldn't see movement, we could work. And so, yeah, it was the unknown that we were trusting. But now we can look at microbes under a microscope, and even you and I, our kids in grade school can look at microbial life by grabbing a handful of soil, putting it on a slide, and looking at a microscope, and you can actually see the microbes moving around. And it is the coolest thing. You actually can see nematodes eating, and it's wow, it is an amazing. When that happened, when I did that, it completely changed everything for me. And so another thing that changed was standing in the forest. I've been a big mushroom hunter and standing in the forest, not actually collecting mushrooms, just standing there and feeling the energy from the soil coming up through my body, breathing in this beautiful scent that the forest gives you, and listening. I guess more what I'm saying is I slowed down and I just took it all in, and how healing that was, and how we didn't need human intervention there. We didn't need it. It was doing fine all on its own. And then you come out of that and you see the farmlands with columbines, and you see these columbines that are tilling the soil, which means they're killing the microbes, right? And they're monocropping. They're growing just corn on these crops. Well, we all know we need diversity in our diet to be healthy. So if just corn is growing on the soil, what is that doing to the microbes that are then supposed to produce nutrient efficient food for humans? So it all started clicking. I was like, oh my gosh, we can't have tilling. We can't have monocropping. Really, what we need to do is buy from farmers or grow our own foods. And here's a fun little fact. Anybody can do this. You can actually harvest your own indigenous microorganisms. It's cheap, it's easy, and it's fun. You just grow right. You just cook some rice, put it in a basket about 2 inches deep, go out into the woods or the forest, wherever you've got trees, move some of the leaves back. And if you see mycelium threads, which are white, it looks stringy, if you see that, you can set your basket right there. Put some leaves on top of your basket of rice. Put like a bucket on top of that to kind of keep the critters out, or you're going to give them a snack to eat. And I have experienced that. I've made that mistake. But if you leave it there for 5 days and then back, the more organisms are eat the rice. And when you take that bucket off and you will see a white layer, lace layer, and it has a sweet, sweet smell. You have just harvested indigenous microorganisms and you did not hurt the forest whatsoever. The forest basically will come to you, this basket, and then you take that home. And it sounds really silly, but you do. You take that home, you mix it with some brown sugar, and that will stabilize, shelf stabilize your microbes. Now, I'm going to say something that calms and slows the microbes down.
Mm.
That happens in our gut too. If you think about it, if you're eating sugar, you're slowing your microbes down. Kind of a aha moment on that, right? So you shelf stabilize your indigenous microorganisms getting back to the soil. And when you want to improve your soil, you do 1,000 parts water to 1 part indigenous microorganisms, and you can water your soil with that. So that little jar of microbes will last for years and years and years if you don't use it. But you mix 1,000 parts water to 1 part of microbes, and you've just improved your soil. And you can test the theory, and you will see a difference in only 3 days.
Wow.
Three
Wow.
days.
That's amazing.
How cool is that? So there's an interesting story about these microbes because what's living in the soil. So what do microbes do? That might be a good next segue, right?
Mhm.
Microbes hold water in the soil. Microbes feed everything in the soil, so it passes nutrients to all the plants and the trees, whatever you have growing. It keeps the bad bugs out. You don't need herbicides. You don't need to Roundup or any of that stuff. You just need to let the microbes do their thing, and they will. And then those microbes will be on your vegetables, and then you bring them in the house, you wash them, and you ferment them, and then those microbes will colonize.
Wow. That's amazing.
Did I just
That's
mind
that's
them? Did I go
that's
too?
amazing.
Yeah.
It's such a perfect segue again into how do you ferment foods? How do you, like, if I have fruits and vegetables, or what can you ferment? That's a perfect segue into those two questions.
You can almost ferment every vegetable and fruit that's out there. So, okay, look at our ancestors. They didn't have refrigerators. How did they preserve their food so that they could eat in the winters when they're living in 20 feet of snow? How did they do it? Well, they canned, but they more than that, they fermented. Fermentation has been around for thousands and thousands of years. In fact, in my book, I actually have a timeline and it's fascinating to see just how far it's come. And the crazy thing is that the US, we don't have that skill set. And out of 127 recipes, maybe 5 are from the US. They're all from all over the world. And I
Mhm.
actually call out the origin. And there's a little bit of a story in there on some of them, just because they mean so much to me. So it's important to know that this is not a trend. This is not something new. It has been around for years and years and years. And at its most simplest state, to ferment, take salt, water, vegetable, and you will ferment. Now there's science around that, right? A 2% salt to what you're fermenting is really critical. In some cases, you need more than 2%. Uh, the what can you ferment? It's all a matter of taste. So
Mm,
if we talk about fermentation from a what is it, right? Because a lot of people think they know what fermenting is and they mix it with canning, or they think because they bought a container of something it's fermented. So fermentation, the reason why we have fermentation is it's a way that will pre-digest a lot of foods so it's easier for you to digest in your body. It breaks it down. It breaks the cellular structure down. You know, like beans, you know, like when you eat beans, you fart like
mhm.
crazy.
Yes.
Well, if you
Yes.
ferment them first, that farting stops. The
Wow.
gases have already been released. And
Mm,
so it
mm.
doesn't hurt your body at all. I mean, you know, when you go to Japan, you don't hear them farting like crazy. And do you know miso is made from soybeans?
Right.
You know, so so you can ferment meats, you can ferment vegetables, fruits. It just depends on how you're doing it. Canning, so I'm going to talk about this. Canning is a way of preserving, but that is heat related.
Mm,
You kill everything in that jar. Fermented foods are alive. They're not dead. There are live microbes in there and they're moving around and you could throw them on a slide and take a look at it. Um, so it's important to have the live foods. And when you ferment, there's not a lot of limitations when you have the formula, you can ferment pretty much anything. Now, I'll tell you, I am not a fan of a couple of things like beets. I mean beans. I do not like to ferment green beans. I think they're disgusting. But that's my own personal preference. Some people love them. Pickles, it's better to ferment a pickle than it is to can a pickle. There's a sourness, and that sourness is what reacts to your brain axis, your stomach brain axis, that turns it into dopamine. The sourness is that magical element we need in our diets to help the dopamine flow through and make us happy. So that's another reason to eat fermented foods. Um, so let's see, to ferment. So if we were to break this down, very simple. I'm going to do sauerkraut because sauerkraut is what everybody knows. And I would recommend your first step in fermenting is go buy a jar at the store that has a label that says raw. If it says raw, it's not pasteurized and you've got live microbes in it. It's kind of hard to find, but it is doable. I mean, so any canned sauerkraut, stay away from. Any pasteurized or ultra pasteurized, stay away. You only want raw. So taste it. See how it feels. See how you feel. When you eat sauerkraut, the way to eat it is if you don't eat fermented foods, you start with a teaspoon and you eat a teaspoon of fermented foods 3 times a day. You can build that up to a maximum of 2 tablespoons. Don't eat any more than that. It's not necessary. That's an overload on your microbes. I think that's what people mess up on and they say, oh, I can't eat fermented foods. I just get gassy and my stomach hurts. Well, you're eating too much. So I do a cost. You also save a ton of money. Take a head of cabbage. And I always say if you're going to make it and you don't have access to a farmer, buy it in the organic section of the grocery store. But you take the head of cabbage, let's say it's $6 for that head. You could make coleslaw and you'd maybe get 10, maybe 20 servings of that coleslaw, and you need to eat it within 3 days. Coleslaw has no added benefits to it, no extra nutrition. It has fat. It's not good for you. And it goes bad within 3 days. It turns into slime. So the what I recommend is to take that head of cabbage, ferment it, and you ferment it by slicing it, add a 2% salt to the weight of the cabbage, add the water, push it down, let it sit for 2 weeks, and that head of cabbage will turn into 120 servings that will you can use, and it will last over a year in the refrigerator. And when you ferment, you change the nutritional aspect of that vegetable. The microbes will eat the sugar that's in that cabbage. So now this becomes a ketogenic piece of vegetable that you could eat. It's no longer really a carb. The the index is much lower, and it increases in vitamin A and vitamin C, and in some cases other nutrients depending on which vegetable you are using. So not only do you save the money, but you add more nutrients to your body, and it lasts over a year.
Wow.
Yeah. Why not go
Wow.
that route? And it's not just cabbage, it's beets, it's carrots, it's everything. You can ferment everything. It gives me chills talking about it. And I always recommend, as you go on a fermentation journey, the first time doing a vegetable you've never done before, to do a small jar of it. Don't do a large 2-gallon jug, because you
Mhm.
don't want to waste it. And just to make sure you like it with the flavor that it's fermented. And you can add like jalapenos and ghost peppers and seasonings like turmeric and pepper and garlic, and there's so many things you could do, and you just build on those flavors. It changes the way you eat. You don't need um you don't need to keep eating. You get a lot of your sourness, your there's different flavor profiles that you hit based on what you're eating, um, out of fermented foods, which will satisfy you. So you won't eat this and then go, I'm in the mood for something else. I need to eat something else. So it definitely changes that. So fermented foods in how could I have 127? Well, a lot of things are fermented. It's not just vegetables, it's dairy, right? You can make cheese from home that's so good. Liquids, kombucha is a great one to make. And what's funny, people are really surprised when they try kombucha at home instead of instead of purchasing it from the store, as a whole different flavor profile. And everyone's always blown away because it tastes good. There's another
Wow.
one I do. I am also a beekeeper. I've been a beekeeper for years and years. And I make what's called June.
Mhm.
And if people don't like kombucha after they've tried it, even at home, then I recommend they drink June. And June is a lighter floral essence of kombucha. Kombucha is made with black tea and sugar, and that's it.
Mhm.
And June is made with green tea and honey.
Oh.
The honey has to be raw. It can't be, you know, it needs to be from a beekeeper that so you know that those bees were not fed with, sugar patties.
Mhm.
The green tea needs to be loose green tea. Getting it from a bag doesn't give you the right quality or the flavor compound you're going to want in that June. But there's a lot of different things you can do. Wine and beer are fermented. Now, I will talk about the alcohol because you mentioned that. Um, So when people say, "Oh my gosh, I'm hungover, I drank too much, I'm dehydrated
Mhm.
now," you're not dehydrated. This is new information. You've killed the microbes, and your body needs to heal.
Mhm.
It takes it can take 2 to 3 days for those microbes to build up, but it's not dehydration. It's the gut
Wow.
microbes have been killed, Just like when you till soil, you kill the microbes, same kind of thing. So you have to build them back up again. So that alone to me is like stay away from the alcohol. There's fun drinks. You can make amazing drinks out of kombucha in June, and they taste just as great. You wouldn't miss it. But yeah,
My mind is just blown. It's always so enlightening to hear different ways to do things. And I think and I think this is a perfect time to remind everyone watching that there is a QR code in the corner of the screen. If you scan that QR code, it'll take you to Michelle's website, and you'll be able to pre-order a copy of the book, and you'll also be able to learn
you.
a lot of other things, that she has available and that she has going on as well. So, I mean, just listening to her tonight, even here on the show, I'm like, I'm definitely getting a copy of the book because this is definitely something that I can add on top of the lifestyle changes I've already made that probably will take me to the next level. And so, really tonight, we're talking about rebuilding instead of hacking the body, right? We're
Yes,
talking about getting back to basics. And so I'm just so enlightened, and I think that by purchasing a copy of the book and getting it digging into this yourself, we can really take our health um to the next level. And they say health is wealth, and it really is, because if you can't do anything, you can't do anything.
can't do anything.
Absolutely. So, talk a little bit about for anyone watching who may be thinking to themselves, "This sounds overwhelming. I'm really not going to do this." What are some practical ways that people can begin implementing fermentation right away? Just simple, practical
That's a
things.
beautiful question, and I'm excited you asked it. First of all, there is a free Gutsy 2-week reset on my website you can download, and that's got 7 steps you can do. And those 7 steps are really easy steps. So I'm just going to go through. I'm just going to go through them quickly. I promise it won't be long and drawn out. The first thing is to drink a glass of warm lemon water with a pinch of salt. That gets your bile moving in the morning and helps wake you up. And before you start with the rest of your day, do that. It's very simple. Pinch of salt, a squeeze of lemon, and some warm water. And drink it with intention. Think about what you're going to do that day. Second thing is eat 3 ferments a day, anywhere from a teaspoon to 2 tablespoons. I like to do it before my meal, but sometimes I put it in my meal too. And diversity, shoot for the rainbow for the solid week, colors of the rainbow. Diversity is different types of greens, leafy greens, get seeds, get nuts, get grains into your body. Try to eat something differently every single day. I do hear when we go on these programs that people get stuck and they're eating the same thing over and over and over. That is not good for you. Your body needs diversity, just like the soil diversity. So add diversity to your diet. Doing something, and I get her. My belly laugh. Practical jokes. They crack me up. I don't know why. I guess I'm weird, but I are that and doodles. Doodles are another one that I just totally laugh on. You, when you laugh, you're making your microbes move in the gut. It's not just, it doesn't just feel good. You're doing something internal that's really important. Movement. That's another one. You got to move. Even if it's just standing there on a vibration plate, some sort of movement You need to do every single day because that gets that acid in your body moving. And you don't have to go run a marathon. Water aerobics is another one that's really great that I did a lot of. And I'll tell you what, it feels so good to step in the water when you're hurting. It takes all the pain away, and you live in bliss for that hour you're in class. And then after the hour, you come out and you're like, oh, there it all is again. But at least you get to move your body and get some movement going, which is really important. And then gratitude. We get caught in the negativity without realizing we're in the negativity. And it's really important to really write it down. If something great happens, write it down, date it in your gratitude book. It sounds hokey, but really it works. And then if you're having a bummed out day, go look at your gratitude book. It's a great way to find that appreciation, that happiness, those memories of things. Because sometimes when you get in a deep, dark place, it's hard to find anything that's good. I know, I've been there. And I am a very positive person, and I was not. And I wish somebody told me to write in a gratitude book, because that I do that now. And I'm not bummed out or anything, but I'll still go back and read things and just start laughing because I did. So that's kind of important. And those are very simple, easy steps that anybody can do. Here's one that's super important. If you want to get into fermented foods, listening to your body is absolutely critical. And the best way to know what's going on with your body, and I talk about this a lot in the Gutsy Reset, log your poop. It sounds gross, but when you eliminate, he is telling you what you're putting in your mouth, how it's coming out. And each shape, each texture, each smell, each color is messaging for your body. And you can keep a log of it. Keep a log of your log. I mean, hey, I'm 59, I'm allowed. But log your poop, because how great would it be if whatever it is going on, you go see your doctor and you can whip out your log book. Well, here, this is the stuff that's going on with me. Because your blood test is not going to tell you that. When you reach a certain age, you have to do the poop test to check for colon cancer, but they don't check anything else. All it is colon cancer, and you get you get a message back saying you're good. That's it. So if you went to your doctor, a log of how you're doing, your doctor would be very easy for them to help move you along. There's a gutsy, ask a question in that Gutsy Reset. What's your transient time? Your transient, you can eat like a half a cup of cooked beets. And I always recommend, if you eat, you put up a note in your bathroom mirror that said, I ate beets on this date, so that when you finally do eliminate, because it's red. Because when your poop's red, you've got to go to the doctor, but not if you're eating beets. So your transient time tells you a lot about what's going on. Is it floating? Is it sinking? If it's floating, you've got too much fat in your diet. Every one of those questions I ask, there are results in the Gutsy Reset that will tell you what's going on, and just making small minor adjustments will help you. With inflammation, oh my gosh, we didn't even talk about inflammation. When you eat fermented foods, when you follow this Gutsy Reset, that swollen feeling, that pain you're feeling in your knees or your back, it kind of melts away. It kind of loosens up. It's a little easier to move and do. And you'll know this because you may do the Gutsy Reset for 2 weeks, weeks and feel good and then go off of it. And then you're like, oh God, I don't feel very good. Get back on it.
Mhm.
It's not changing your diet. You do whatever diet you have. Just incorporate these 7 pillars and it will really make a difference. And
Wow.
then, you can experience, I have I think a lot of people are intimidated by the tools that are needed to ferment. So I have a subscription you can sign up for that's called my fermentation kit. And the first box is everything you need to make sauerkraut. Each month it's a new box with new tools based on new items you can ferment. And you can keep fermenting the items from the tools I've already given you.
Mhm.
You don't have to stop that. I like to have. I bet I've got 30 ferments going at any given time. But my ferments aren't just food. Well, it's not just vegetables. It's dairy components. It's cheese. It's beverages. It's
Mhm.
ginger bugs, and it's tonics like I do a honey and garlic just if you have a sore throat because it's
Mhm.
magic on your sore throat. Then I
Mhm.
also eat it because it's so good. So there is that. You might have to control that. But so there's a lot of ways you can start off ease doing it baby steps. Like I
Yes.
said earlier, go to the grocery store, buy some raw sauerkraut. Just make sure whatever you take away from this episode, to please, please, please make sure if you purchase at a grocery store that it's raw, because
Wow.
then you get those microbes. If you buy processed, nothing's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, I am just, like I said, it's almost like mind blown. And I'm sure for those watching, if you haven't, if this is new to you, like it's new to me, you're probably thinking, where's this been all my life? Well, we know it's been around for years. And we're grateful to Michelle for bringing this to the forefront and letting us know. And so, like I said before, by scanning the QR code in the top corner, it'll take you to her website. You'll be able to access the book, the reset, the list that she mentioned, all of these things to help you get started, and really, at the end of the day, to help you change your life. Because I know a big thing in my household is inflammation, or it was, and achy joints. And so now
Yes.
I'm like, I'm ready to go to the grocery store right now. I'm ready to go and get started right now. And so um, we could spend a whole another 2 hours talking
Good.
about this and diving into it. But what's one thing that writing this book taught you?
Oh my gosh. The really important thing was for me to slow down. I have been a fast mover. I've been a serial entrepreneur. I go 1000% forward and I don't look back. And people always said, "Gosh, do you ever sleep?" And I held that as I was pretty proud of that fact when and since I was hurting myself. So I think slowing down and having patience really. And this book was really interesting because when you're and I didn't know this because I've never written a book before. The best thing you can do when you write a book is to write something and then set it down and walk away and not go back to it for a while and then revisit it. I did that many, many times. And every time I did, the book got better. At first it was just recipes. And then it was recipes with a little bit of a story on my catering. And then it was recipes with health and the food crisis. And it wasn't until probably 6 months ago that I even added anything about the soil, which the soil is critical. Now it's like a no brainer. But before I added the soil to the book, it just I wouldn't have even imagined that that would have made sense. And now to me, I think, how could I ever do a book without adding soil? And a lot of what we talked about tonight was about soil. So I think that time and patience is what I've learned by writing this book.
That's amazing. That is so amazing, and I love your pointer. Probably one of the best ones I have ever given out is just right. But not only that, put it down. Take a break for the weekend, take a break for the week, and then come back to it because you I always say look at it with a fresh set of eyes, and that does wonders. And so I'm just so grateful that you did just that. And now you have this wonderful work that I believe is going to help so many people to not only change their lives, but their families' lives, their friends around them, their community. Because once I made the shift in my diet and in my lifestyle, just from what I did for myself, it trickled down to my family, my friends. Doctors are saying you need to do this to cure this disease. And I'm like, no, do this, eat this, and they're cured. And so food, living food really is health to our bodies. And I've once heard somebody say that the real brain is in the gut. And
It
so,
is.
yeah,
It
yeah.
is. It's
And
the
so,
gut brain axis, man. It is like, it's definitely the guts.
yes, absolutely. And so, just it's been a joy conversating with you tonight and just learning. I learned so many new things just in this short period of time that we've talked. And so I look forward, I'll definitely be purchasing a copy of your book, and we'll have to bring you back onto the podcast after it's published and talk a little more about it. And hear about some people's feedback because I just know it's going to change lives. So, thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing
Um,
your journey and your insights. Is there anything that you would like to leave us with before we close out?
okay, there is one thing I want to leave with everyone, and that is your body isn't broken, it's underfed.
Hmm.
It's underfed. Your microbes are asking for food. And I think that we all need to know it doesn't matter what we're doing. It doesn't matter. We can only do with the information that we have. And we need to change it. I hope this turns into a movement. I would love to see the next 50 years completely change. And it has to because we can't keep going like this. So if everybody knows that they're not broken, their microbes are underfed, that I think that's important.
I love that. You're not broken. Your microbes are underfed. You should put that on a t-shirt. You should definitely put that on a t-shirt. That's my publisher hat. Thinking of upsell items that she can add to her
Thank
book.
you. I
Yeah,
just
my
have
boo.
to.
Yes, absolutely. I could totally see it. Um, Again, thank you, Michelle, so much. This has been a joy to just have this conversation with you. I love your personality. Even the more, you have enlightened me so much. I've learned so much just from our short conversation tonight. Um, if you hang out with us for just a moment, I'm going to close this out. Thank you again to everyone watching. Thank you for spending the evening with Michelle and I. If this conversation has encouraged you, please share it. I feel like it's imperative for you to share with your family, your friends, um, direct them to the website, to her website to just check out the book and all the other things that she's offering. The replay will be available on YouTube shortly, right after we end. And then beginning tomorrow, within the next 24 hours, it'll be on Spotify. So just share it. This is important. It's important to me. It's important to Michelle, and it's important to your health and your livelihood, because it can extend your life, and that's important. And so, thank you again for watching. behind the pin on tonight. Thank you to our wonderful guest, Michelle. Thank you for being on with us tonight. I truly appreciate you. And all that you're doing, all the education that you're spreading, your story, and the information. Knowledge really is power in this regard. It really is. So thank you so much. Um, Again, to my viewers,
Thank
thank you so
you.
much for watching. Remember, your story matters and your voice matters. And if you are a up and coming author, if you've written a book already, or if you know someone, please direct them to the VTF Collective. You'll see the tab there for Behind the Pen. Fill out the information. I'm pretty responsive. And we'll get you right onto the show, lickety split. So again, remember your story matters, your voice matters, and we will see you next time on Behind the Pen. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great evening.